Welcome to the Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, big tech has turned on the Washington State Legislature, which is controlled by the Democrats. And I'm just sitting here eating popcorn, watching the whole thing. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Representative Pramila Jayapal, the Democrat from Hamas, has a new plan. It's her resistance lab. What the hell is a resistance lab? Well, Fox News has a story for us.
Well, the Fox News at Night Common Sense Department was listening to Elon Musk talking Tesla tonight on the 5. He was focusing on the Tesla attacks, calling them, quote, wide-scale domestic violence. But instead of going after the attackers who Elon calls the foot soldiers, he wants to go after those funding the attacks, the generals. And it got common sense thinking because while Elon is talking generals, foot soldiers, and domestic terrorism, House Democrat and Squad member Pramila Jayapal is organizing what she calls resistance labs to protect against the fall of democracy and rise of dictatorships. Oh, yes, the dictator narrative is alive and well. But unlike Elon, Jayapal doesn't want to go after the dictator. She wants to take down the, quote, pillars of support that allow the dictator to remain in power. And she wants it to be nonviolent, a velvet revolution. So if common sense gets it right, the dictatorship that does not exist is evil, but her resistance that does exist is kind. It would, of course, follow a long line of friendly, far-left resistance like the Weather Underground, Antifa, BLM, the Kumbaya groups. Common sense thinks when you hear the phrase, teach people how to fight back against dictators, oh, you can expect a revolution. But forget nonviolent and think non-velvet.
Exactly right. So Pramila Jayapal, or however you butchered her name, which is fine. I do it all the time. I shouldn't make fun of Trace Gallagher. But Pramila Jayapal is planning a revolution. This sounds like an insurrection to me. Over the weekend, she was out at Tesla leading the mob against a dealership. So you're targeting an American business. You're targeting a local business. How is that any different than the Summer of Love? How is that any different than the BLM and Antifa rioters who went out, smashed the windows, and targeted businesses during the Summer of Love? You remember the reports saying, oh, well, they came into my shop and they wanted money. They wanted protection money. And then the Seattle Times goes, no, that never happened. And then business owners told me, yeah, it happened. Are we close to that again? Is that the direction we're going in again? What did Pramila Jayapal actually say when she launched this resistance lab? Because it doesn't sound like a velvet revolution to me. It sounds like a velvet revolver.
Hey everyone, I am here at our inaugural session of Resistance Labs. This is a new training we're launching. We had over 850 people sign up. We're trying to accommodate as many as we can, but it's really to get you strike ready and street ready. It's going to be a training that involves different tactics and strategies.
I'm sorry. Strike ready? Street ready? Different tactics involved? I know I call her the Democrat from Hamas, but this sounds a lot like Hamas for a second here. This sounds like an actual revolution. This sounds like an actual insurrection in a city which has had one before. One of the listeners to our show just sent me a tip from the Capitol Hill blog. The city of Seattle is short $250 million. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to revise that number now. The head tax numbers came in. $300 million it is short in its budget. $300 million. But now they want to build a monument in Cal Anderson Park. Is it to the 5 boys who got shot, the 6 people who got shot during the autonomous zone? Nah. Is it to the 2 kids who got killed in the autonomous zone? Nah. It's to the autonomous zone itself. They want to spend your taxpayer money building a monument to 6 blocks that were taken over by armed Antifa terrorists and BLM terrorists that for 3 weeks held the residents there basically captives in their own homes. Rapes, robberies, murders went up 250%. And you want a memorial to that? It looks like Pramila Jayapal is literally doubling down on all of this. This is her plan. So what do you want to do? You want to show up at town halls? Do you want to target stores? Because you're playing with fire here. Because the lunatics in Seattle only have two switches, or rather two modes, on and off. That's it. There's no in between. There's no mostly peaceful protest. One example. Okay, so they peacefully shut down the I-5 freeway, right? Peacefully shut down the I-5 freeway for 6 hours on January 6, 2024. They trapped emergency vehicles. They trapped ambulances, police officers, and more. Is that peaceful? Is that violent? It may have been, quote unquote, peaceful, but that doesn't actually make it peaceful. Are we really back to this again? She is literally encouraging revolution because she doesn't like the president of the United States. Okay, let me do it this way for a second. I want you to listen to me pitch this for a second against, let's say, a President Kamala Harris. I want to do a velvet revolution. I'm going to teach you street tactics. I'm going to teach you resistance tactics that you can use on the streets and against Democrats. How does that sound for a second? What would happen to me if I was serious about that? What would happen if the mainstream, what would happen if the Seattle Times got a hold of that? What would happen if I said that? They go ballistic about what I say about the Israel-Hamas war. What would they do if I said that if Kamala Harris was president? Ari Hoffman's planning an armed insurrection. He's an election denier. That's what would happen. That's exactly what we're talking about here. It is clear that this whole thing was poll tested, focus group tested. She's trying to say what she wants without getting into trouble. This was created by focus groups and marketing. You can say this word, but you can't say that word. That's what this is. That's why it sounds so confusing what she's actually saying.
And also looking at democracies around the world and how they fell, what we can do. So we're super excited. It's the first in a series.
I'm sorry, what? How democracies fell around the world? What we can do? Are you trying to take down our democracy? Or are you looking at us as a cautionary tale? At the very, very least, Pam Bondi should be opening an investigation and requesting the educational materials to make sure none of these tactics being taught are violent or militaristic in nature, because I guarantee you that they are. Of course, people defending her will say, oh, she isn't promoting violence. I just showed you. What if I had said the exact same thing? What if I had said that? Oh, and by the way, she might actually be committing a very serious crime. 18 U.S. Code 2385, advocating overthrow of the government. Whoever knowingly or willfully advocates, abets, advises, or teaches the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of overthrowing or destroying the government of the United States or the government of any state, territory, district, or possession thereof, or the government of any political subdivision therein, by force or violence, or by the assassination of any officer or such government, or whoever with intent to cause the overthrow or destruction of any government prints, publishes, edits, issues, circulates, sells, distributes, or publicly displays any written or printed matter advocating, advising, or teaching the duty, necessity, desirability, or proprietary of overthrowing or destroying any government in the United States by force or violence, or attempts to. Whoever organizes or helps or attempts to organize any society, group, or assembly of persons who teach, advocate, encourage, and overthrow or destruction of any such government or force of violence, or becomes a member of, affiliates with, or any society, group, or assembly of persons knowing the purpose thereof, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years, or both, and shall be ineligible for employment by the United States or any department or agency thereof for 5 years following this conviction. Doesn't Pramila Jayapal check every single one of those boxes with everything she just said? She thinks she can get away with this. And let me play this out. Play the tape to the end for a second. What happens if Pam Bondi actually goes after her with charges? You want to play this tape out to the end? Here's what happens. Donald Trump is going after a member of Congress who's a woman of color, who's an immigrant family. He's trying to weaponize the Department of Justice and the FBI against somebody who disagrees with him. Our democracy at stake. All because Pramila Jayapal wants to overthrow the government. You think I'm being extreme here? Do you think I'm being extreme here? That is literally what she is asking for. And by the way, this is a woman who supports Hamas. Do you know what she did earlier this week? Her and her buddy Rashida Tlaib, the Democrat from Gaza, have introduced a joint resolution to halt the sales of specific offensive weapons to Israel. Even as the Jewish state faces a fight for its survival in a seven-front war in the wake of October 7th. Jayapal previously called Israel a racist state. Tlaib was censured for Congress for anti-Semitic remarks. According to Jayapal's office, the proposed resolutions are designed to block the sale of various munitions. Now, whether you agree with us selling Israel weapons, whether you disagree with that, here's the problem. Pramila Jayapal went and got support for this legislation. This is what you do. When you have legislation, you go get a whole bunch of co-sponsors like Rashida Tlaib, and she got the rest of the squad, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, AOC, Greg Kazar, Chuchi Garcia, all these guys, Chewy Garcia. But she also went and got the support of a terrorist-affiliated group, the Council on American Islamic Relations, an organization that was singled out as an unindicted co-conspirator in a 2013 Justice Department Office of Inspector General's report during the largest terror trial in U.S. history against the Muslim charity, the Holy Land Foundation for Relief and Development, which was revealed to have funneled millions of dollars to Hamas. The 2008 case linked CARE leaders to Hamas, a specially designated terrorist organization, and CARE was named as an unindicted co-conspirator in the case. Last year, the Biden administration scrubbed CARE from the White House Task Force on Anti-Semitism after the group's co-founder, Nihad Awad, celebrated the October 7th atrocities committed by Palestinian terrorists against Israeli civilians. Steve Emerson, he's the founder and director of the Investigative Project on Terrorism, previously told the Jewish news syndicate that CARE was created as a Hamas front group and still functions as a propaganda arm of Hamas to this day. According to the Anti-Defamation League, which is most definitely not in my little black book of the right-wing media advocacy groups, anti-Semitism is in the DNA of CARE. It is part of CARE's intrinsic fiber. CARE leaders often traffic in anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist rhetoric. Some of its leaders have cultivated suspicion among the public toward a wide array of American Jewish institutions. The embattled Muslim advocacy group, one of the largest nonprofits operating in the U.S., recently agreed to settle a case with a former employee rather than open its books to reveal sources of foreign funding. This is the group that Pramila Jayapal got to support her initiative. Now that you have all this information, can we go back and can we hear what Jayapal had to say from the beginning again, now that you have all the data available?
Hey everyone, I am here at our inaugural session of Resistance Labs. This is a new training we're launching. We had over 850 people sign up. We're trying to accommodate as many as we can, but it's really to get you strike ready and street ready. It's going to be a training that involves different tactics and strategies, and also looking at democracies around the world and how they fell, what we can do. So we're super excited. It's the first in a series, so there will be more. Make sure you stay tuned to hear what happens here tonight.
Oh, enough. You know what she sounds like? She's like when you talk to a dog and you're saying awful things. Oh, you're a little piece of garbage, aren't you? Oh, I love you so much. I'm going to burn down the government, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to overthrow the U.S. I'm going to overthrow the president. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, you're such a good boy. That's what that sounds like. Now that you have all that information, this sounds like an actual insurrection. It sounds like she is calling for revolution in the streets. It sounds like she should be indicted, at the minimum investigated, wanting to strike in the streets. Give me a break. This is crazy. This is literally crazy. Do you think I'm overreacting? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. She's already having shadow hearings in the Capitol. These aren't real hearings. She's having breakaway ones because her party's not in power.
How does an American benefit when we invest in the stability of women and girls around the world?
Of course, there's the moral obligation, and that's one that 89% of Americans support. That's Republicans and Democrats alike. But there's also the benefits that we have having a stable economy that can interact with other stable economies.
Do you know what they're advocating for in that little hearing that's so shoddy that they can't even get the Zoom to work right? That's them, not on my end. Do you know what they're advocating for? She's mad that we cut off U.S. aid funding to all these groups around the world that don't like America. So she's advocating for that funding to go back to all those organizations, all those groups that don't like America, all those groups that push critical race theory, which was based on critical theory by the Soviet Union, which was designed to take down capitalism and America. She's mad that the funding has been cut off to her revolutionary brothers and sisters. That's what she's actually mad about. Do you think I'm overreacting? Or do you think Jayapal should be investigated immediately? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Jason in Sedro-Woolley. Jason, what's going on?
Well, if I had everything that you just got done conveying over the airwaves handy-dandy on my desktop, I would copy and paste that in an email to Pam Bondi. But since you have it all fresh right in front of you, why don't you do it? I mean, what's keeping you from doing it?
Oh, there's nothing keeping me from doing it. You know how Mike likes to say how I'm up till like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning? When people wonder what I'm doing late at night, a lot of times it's this. So, yeah.
A lot of times it's you contacting the people in the government, like Pam Bondi?
A lot of times it's me sending tips to certain federal agencies that may or may not be named, even when the opposition party is in power, because for me, I'm not going to sit on the sidelines when things like this happen. You want an example? The Palestine Chronicle. No. Here's an example. I'll just tell you this. Just because I'm sure other people are saying, well, Ari, why doesn't he do this? And Jason, it's a fair question, by the way, right? But here's the thing. Number one, let me stress this point. When they just hear it from me, they go, it's the crazy radio host again, because they hear from me a lot. Okay, I will say that. Right? There are people I have connections with. Right, but other people can do this as well and say it's tips. And when they hear a lot of stuff, they go, maybe this is something we should investigate. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Last night, I put up my first blog post on KVI.com about Bob Ferguson, whether he's being sincere or insincere about pushing back on the tax increases. So maybe I'll write one up on this as well with this segment, with the video, so you have all the information at your disposal. But here's the thing. I do contact these guys. Be good. Right. I do contact these guys. The Palestine Chronicle, for example, I was feeding a whole bunch of the information to the lawyers who filed the cases against them right now. This is what I do, because I don't just say it on the radio and hope somebody else deals with it. I deal with it myself.
Well, I think on the whole, I mean, every once in a while you hear on the news media, I think One American News is probably one of the best, but, you know, rarely do you hear them talk about Seattle and Washington State in general. Washington State in general and Seattle commies in particular are striving to be the absolute worst on the planet. Well, at least in the United States. I mean, everybody talks about New York, L.A., Chicago, all this and all that. Hey, people, you need to get over here up to the far left coast and see who's striving to be the top communist in in the country. Because Washington State, I'm born and raised here, 7 decades, and I remember what it used to be like.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's completely out of control now. I mean, a monument to the autonomous zone, are they out of their minds? Jason, appreciate the call. Yeah, appreciate the perspective. Appreciate you being part of the show, buddy. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our friend, the other Jay, out in Idaho now. Jay, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. So appeasement, weakness. We've seen this before. I'm a history geek, and I remember some leaders in the West said, oh, it's just the Ruhr, just to placate him. It's okay. Oh, it's just Sudetenland. No worries. Don't worry about it. He's satisfied. Oh, it's just Austria. Oh, it's just Poland. No, it needs to be nipped in the bud, and I'm going to have faith that the competence in the Department of Justice, they're watching her closely, and all the things that you said. So no, you are not overreacting, and it needs to be nipped in the bud, because appeasement and weakness will cause evil to happen more and more.
I completely agree, and I appreciate the support, Jay. Appreciate you being part of the show. Appreciate the call. You want to weigh in, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. The text line really blew up over this. Dave says, with how many lawsuits that were settled over CHOP, could this violate a settlement agreement? They're making monuments supporting the thing they were sued over. Excellent point. And as I mentioned, I do talk to some people, so I'm going to reach out to the attorneys who did the lawsuits over that. Robin Lakewood says, overreacting? No. Jayapal is today's Saul Alinsky. Just add violence. Yep, think you're 100% right. I do indeed. This one from the 206, investigate her. This one from the 360, Ari, it's pronounced Cedro Willie. Yes, fair. Okay, I've been blowing that one for years, so thank you very much for clarifying that. It's insane. It's absolutely insane right now how blatant this is and how we need federal intervention now. And it's more insane that me as a conservative is asking for federal intervention because things are so bad. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, we will take more of your phone calls on this. Plus, is big tech finally saying we've had enough with the Democrats in Washington? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Don't forget, coming up at 4 o'clock today is your chance to be part of the golden age of America, my friends, as we give away $2,025 plus a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Yeah, another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. The phone lines...
We're going to usher in a new golden age of American success.
Exactly right. The phone lines and the text lines are going absolutely about this Pramila Jayapal. And I saw this one here. It says, Ari, wait, don't report Pramila Jayapal yet. Let them have a few more meetings so you have more evidence against them. Interesting. You know what? If anybody wants to sign up for her meetings and then send us, I don't know, screenshots, screen captures, video recordings of it, I'm not going to tell you no. ARI@KVI.com. That's ARI@KVI.com. You send us what you get. You want to know how to get into those meetings? Check out Jayapal's website and social media. I'm sure she has links to it. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Mike in Everett. Mike, what's going on?
My question is, I mean, it sounds like a complete moron, but how do you get a hold of Pam Bondi?
Excellent question. And no, you don't sound like a fool, sir. There is no such thing as a bad question. No such thing as a dumb question. Only dumb people. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, no such thing as a bad question. So here's what it is. Funny you should mention that. In the break, I pulled up exactly how to get a hold of everybody. So there's two ways you can do this. And I mean, if you can't remember the exact website, you just do TIPS, Department of Justice, in your Google, and it'll pop right up, or TIPS FBI, and it'll pop right up. Now, I recommend you go through the Department of Justice, because the Department of Justice is more likely to order the FBI to do it, whereas some FBI wonk who hasn't been fired yet by Kash Patel may get it and go, it's just somebody complaining about a congressman or a woman or whatever the case may be. Or do both to be on the safe side. So tips.fbi.gov is really, really easy. And the other one is justice.gov/action center. Those are the two easiest way to do it. Mike, appreciate the call. Appreciate the question. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's going on, man?
Hey, you guys are talking about Pramila Jayapal, who I call Pramila PayPal. I think this whole thing is stemming from the fact that she believed in an insurrection. And now that we hear today that Donald Trump had what they call Liberation Day, the Democrats are calling it Depression Day. I don't know why they say that, because
they think it's going to trigger. They think it's going to trigger an economic depression. That's what they're trying to say. They're saying, we're going to hammer on the economy, bad, 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 bad. Funny, they didn't say that when they were blowing out the spending and jacking up inflation. Leonard, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Rick says over on the Warrior Injury Law text line, just filled out the form to the Attorney General's office stating Pramila's plans for revolution, taking to the streets, and sent it. Yeah, I think we should send a whole bunch now. And with all due respect to the person who said, wait, don't report it yet from the 206, report it now, then send more later. If you stagger them out and do waves of it, then they might be more likely to actually do something about it. Now, before to go to break, I promised you this story where the question is, are the Democrats going to do anything when big tech comes to them and says, if you pass this tax against big businesses, if you pass this payroll tax, we are out of here. Now, they didn't say we're leaving, but what they did was they said it in code. They said you are threatening the state's economic stability. Here's who they wrote it to. And this is from Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing. And I just want to say, hey, didn't you guys support these fools for office? Oh, yeah, right. But you know what? Better the late than never. I guess a conservative is a liberal tech bro who hasn't had a payroll tax slapped on their business yet. I guess that's a new one we're going to add to the list here. Dear Governor Ferguson, Senators Peterson and Braun, and Representative Jenkins and Stokesbury, we are writing to urge you to review and revise the recently proposed tax and budget proposals before enacting them into law this year. We appreciate your public service and the difficult problems you are grappling to address, but if approved, these proposals would result in the largest tax increases in state history, perpetuating a dangerous trend of unsustainable spending growth. Over the past decade, the state operating budget has more than doubled with a 37% increase in just the last 4 years. This growth far exceeds state increases in population, inflation, personal income, threatening our economic stability. Yeah, exactly right. You can't get any more clear than this. This is a 3-page letter. You just had to write the first paragraph. That's it. I completely agree with them. In fact, Mike, I'm going to reach out to my reps at these companies and see if any of them want to come on the show. It's been a long time since I spoke to some of these guys. I think it's about time to start catching up with them. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, Cory Booker didn't shut up for 24 hours. What was he actually trying to prove? Everybody's kind of curious about that because nobody really knows. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. My wife says to me yesterday, Ari, what was Cory Booker doing? Now, my wife is savvy. She understands this stuff. She watches more news than I do. She has the news on in the background a lot of the day when she's working from home. She gets all this stuff. She's up to date on it. But I think that is a microcosm of what was going on. There was no bill they were debating, nothing they were discussing. So it's not a filibuster when you speak for 24 hours from the floor. You're just a political windbag filling your sails. Nobody knew what I'm speaking against Trump, but I'm also speaking for the hostages, and I'm also speaking about the economy, and you name it, the guy spoke for 24 hours. Why is this a big deal? It's not. It's just him letting off steam. You know, there's a Jewish idea that you only get a certain number of words in this life, and then you're dead. And I said, and I became a radio talk show host. That probably wasn't a good move. But the guy
that's like doing cigarettes or something. It's like, you took 7 minutes off your life. It's like, how much time do you burn every single day?
Exactly. I hope my allocation was given a little bit bigger beforehand. But the idea is, what was he doing? What was he trying to accomplish? Because let me tell you what he did accomplish. By speaking for 24 hours in the mainstream media going, oh, Cory Booker, you're amazing. You know what they didn't cover? Republican infighting. There was Republican infighting. Was it a little Beltway oriented because some Republican members of Congress want to vote from home when they're pregnant or when they have babies or when they're sick or whatever? Yeah, it's a little inside the Beltway, but the mainstream media could have grabbed that and been like, Republicans in disarray. The Freedom Caucus is falling apart. Luna left, and now they're all, look at the Trump supporters leaving the party. They could have done that, and they didn't. And then because you put Booker in the headlines, you know that yesterday one of his legislative assistants was arrested for having a gun on the campus? So now when Booker pops up, you don't get his little speech. You get his assistant pops up in the Google searching of Cory Booker. Bravo. Really, you accomplished literally nothing except burning your word count.
Well, I thought it was funny last night as I'm watching the late night shows. And it seems that conservative media was almost covering this more than mainstream media. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the Inside the Beltway stuff, there's other material there. But I wanted to read a tweet. This from someone named Jordan Chamberlain. She used to be on Ron DeSantis's team. She reposts this Cory Booker thing and says, am I supposed to be impressed? The homeless guy at the gas station by my house does this every single day.
Oh my God, that's so true.
I mean, especially when you watch the video of like how animated Cory Booker was. Like he's like using his glasses as a prop, and he's running around and he's gesturing and he's jabbing and he's going back and forth to the podium and he's holding up a some kind of spiral bound notebook that he thinks is the Constitution, but is really just like a spiral bound notebook. I mean, just like, it was funny watching this. And I would imagine, like, we talk for extended periods of time.
Sure.
And what's the first thing we do when we go to commercial or the top of the hour news? Bam, right to the little talk show host rooms or the little producer's room. And like at a certain point, watching Cory Booker running around, I realized it wasn't so much that he was being dramatic with his gestures. Dude was doing the pee-pee dance is what it was.
That's exactly
because he
what it was.
Just bouncing around.
That's exactly, at least, when Ted Cruz did this, at least he was funny about it. At least he's reading green eggs and at least he's entertaining. Now, Cory Booker, the pro-Israel world was going, and he spoke about the hostages. I'm like, nobody cares. It's hard for me to even care. All right, thank you for supporting the hostages. Thank you for putting on the yellow pin. I appreciate it. But you had to fill 24 hours. That's just like, 10 minutes on it or something like that? You had to fill all that time. But yeah, dude looked like he had to go to the bathroom the entire time. That's literally what it looked like, doing as Mike says, the pee-pee dance. My kids used to do that all the time. I've done it. Oh, you want to see something funny? If you ever watch the show on Facebook and on X and on Rumble and on YouTube, there are times, especially when I'm dieting like I am right now, where I had, this was Monday. Luckily, the camera wasn't working on Monday. We had some technical issues here. The camera wasn't working. I was doing that dance half the show because I just had too much water that day, and Mike knows, like, every break I was running to the little host room. That's what I was doing the entire time. So, yeah, you want me to be impressed with that? No. Actually, Ted Cruz did say something funny. So Ted Cruz held the previous record, and that was, I believe, with response to Obamacare. I think that's what it was. So I think he held it at 21 hours. He tweeted something to the effect of, uh-oh, he's coming up on my record. I'd better pull the fire alarm, hat tip Jamal Bowman, which I thought was very, very good. Now, before I forget, while Mike and I were cleaning up today, we found some extra tickets to John's goodbye party buried under the couch in our lounge out there in the studios. So we have very limited tickets. So here's what we're going to do to give away these very limited tickets we have to John's goodbye party at 6 p.m. in Kirkland. Now, I don't want you calling if you think, on Friday, I don't want you calling if you think you can go. I want you only calling if you know you can go, because there are plenty of people who want to go who would kill for these tickets. Don't kill for tickets. That's bad. Okay, don't do that. But who really, really want them. So here's what we're going to do to give them away, all right? If you want these tickets, we're going to give away 2 pairs of them right now. And here's what you got to do. You got to be caller number 5 and caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 5 and caller number 10 will win a pair of tickets to go to John Carlson's goodbye party this Friday at 6 p.m. out in Kirkland. Give Mike a call at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire and What is a Woman was testifying in front of lawmakers in California. What was he talking about? It was a lot of fun, I'll tell you that. We have that awesome audio for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. So California's legislature was having a hearing on sex-segregated sports, bathrooms, et cetera, and Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire from What is a Woman went there to testify during public comment. Here's what he said.
Today, I'm not going to talk about fairness, although it's certainly true that allowing men to compete in women's sports is deeply unfair. And I'm not going to talk about safety, although it's certainly true that allowing men into female sports teams and into their bathrooms is incredibly unsafe. I'll let others highlight those important points. I want to talk about something even more important and even more basic. It's the most basic thing of all. It's truth. You must keep men out of women's sports and out of their facilities for the simple reason that they are men. Men are not women. A man who claims he is a woman is still not a woman. So why shouldn't men play in women's sports? Because they aren't women. It isn't true. We should not allow men into women's sports for the same reason we shouldn't go around claiming that 2 + 2 = 7. It's just not true. It is a lie. The man who identifies as a woman is either deluded and confused, or he is a cross-dressing fetishist looking to play out his fantasies in public. In either case, the claim that he's making, the claim to womanhood, is not true. And compelling women to take part in this untruth is evil, perverse, and predatory. If you would use the force of law to compel young girls to use a changing room with a boy, you are yourselves predators. Transgenderism is a lie. It is, in fact, the most deranged lie that mankind has ever invented. In a free country, nobody should ever be forced to participate in a lie. As lawmakers, you have an obligation to the truth. It is a truth that I know you all recognize because every human who has ever lived on earth recognizes it, that men are men and women are women. It is that simple. And the question before you is just as simple. The question is this: will you side with the truth, a truth so basic that every toddler understands it, or will you disgrace yourselves by denying it? That is your choice to make.
Matt Walsh was 100% correct. Now, there's something I get a little squeamish isn't the right word. Maybe squishy is a better word. I don't like when people call each other predators online. Now, one thing, if it's an actual predator, call them away. Call for the wood chipper. Call for whatever else that you guys do. Perfectly fine. But when you say it about lawmakers, I used to think they were just misguided. I really thought they were just misguided. But no, today, I cracked. They're predators. They really, really are. They don't care about women. They don't care about girls. They don't care how many get raped. They don't care how many get assaulted. And whenever they say believe all women, they only mean it if it fits their political ideology. How do I know this? The Washington Interscholastic Association. This one is the one that decides all the sports in Washington. They had two plans in front of them because this has become such a problem here of boys competing in girls' sports, girls getting beaten by boys, girls getting injured by boys who are delusional, who think that they're girls and they're not. Sorry, dude, you have an XY chromosome. Nothing's going to change that. No matter what you do to your hair, no matter what you do to your body, your DNA makeup is still the same. So they had two proposals they were considering. The first one was we're going to have the boys' league, the girls' league, and the trans league. The other one was we're going to have the girls' league and the however you identify and the boys' league together in one. Well, today they announced they're dumping all that. They're dumping all that because they were threatened. Sean Bassett, Director of Communications for the WIAA, said in a statement the WIAA has been told by the Attorney General's office, the Office for Civil Rights, that's the state one, by the way, who, by the way, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of like hardcore Hamas supporters on the Office of Civil Rights. I think we've covered them before. And the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, that the proposed amendments would be a violation under current Washington state law, affirming our attorney's legal review. Matt Walsh was literally just talking about how when you use the government to do this, you're a predator. You literally had Nick Brown, Chris Rakedahl, and the Washington Office of Civil Rights using the government to threaten this sports agency. Literally calling it out right here. Because the WIAA doesn't want the flack. They want to say we were going to do the right thing. And then these guys came along and threatened us with legal action. So now we've got a problem. Now you've got boys competing against girls in girls' sports. Yank your kids out of the public schools now because predators like Nick Brown and Chris Rakedahl don't want what's best for your kids. In fact, they want the complete opposite. Enough is enough. What's your line? Was it teachers encouraging kids to go to BLM riots? Was it teachers talking to kids about sexuality? Or is it your daughter may get injured because she's playing a sport against boys and might get horribly injured like that girl who was playing volleyball. Volleyball, it's not even a contact sport. Who now has a traumatic brain injury because some boy hit the ball so hard it knocked her out on the floor of a gym. Do you want that happening to your daughters? Get your kids out of the public schools right now. When we come back, Washington Democrats are also up to no good in the Capitol, now attacking your First Amendment rights and attacking the freedom of the press. Jonathan Cho will be joining us to tell us about the viral video of what happened yesterday in the Capitol. When we come back, plus your chance to enter to win the Golden Age of America contest. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homo, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, speeding tickets are going to be sent out based on equity? What kind of a metric is that? But before we get to any of that, it is time for you to be part of the golden age of America, my friends. That's right. Yes, golden age, my friends. Your chance to win $2,050 and a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Now, when I give you the keyword, you text in only the keyword, not your name, not your birthday, not your phone number, not your address, not your kids' names, nothing else. Just the keyword that I give you. Don't send it. Just send it once, not twice, not thrice, just once. Otherwise, you void your entry. So, all you have to do is text the keyword buzz, as in they're redoing the Buzz Lightyear ride at Disney and closing it down for the summer. That's the keyword buzz, B-U-Z-Z, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Text the keyword buzz, B-U-Z-Z, as in bees go buzz. Text that to 206-421-5757. You have until 5 o'clock to enter the keyword buzz at 206-421-5757. Your next chance to win is coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. during the commute with Carlson. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout or delivery order, and more. That's right, my friends. Your chance to be part of the golden age of America.
Well, and thank you, Ari. You do an incredible job and such an important voice. Thank you very much, Ari.
I love talking to that guy every day. I really, really do. That is my commander-in-chief. That is my president. And hey, guess what, lefties? He's your president, too. Something really, really bad happened in the Washington State Capitol yesterday. We've been talking about this for a while now, less than a week after the Democrat-controlled Washington State Senate adopted a rule change that restricted credentialed members of the media from accessing the wings, which is an adjacent part of the Senate unless invited by a lawmaker or staff member. A journalist with credentials was denied access. You may have seen the video now, but on Tuesday, Jonathan Cho, journalist and senior fellow with the Discovery Institute Center on Wealth and Poverty, Newsmax, Turning Point USA's Frontlines. He's co-authored articles with me for the Post-Millennial. He has multiple Emmy and other awards. You can't say the guy's not a journalist. He was denied access to Democratic leaders' weekly media availability event. Do you know what a weekly media availability event is? It's the leadership gets there and answers the questions, and nobody watches the thing except for maybe the 3 reporters in the room. So, was this really worth the squeeze, guys? No, but you denied him access, and now you made it a much bigger story. You open yourselves up to a massive, massive lawsuit. Now, here's something else. This wasn't Cho doing what he does when he goes up to lawmakers and says, hey, Mayor Harrell, can you answer a question? It wasn't that. He had a pass. He had a pass to be there. He was dressed in a suit. He wasn't wearing his tracksuit. He was ready to go and be the reporter guy and be at a press availability. According to Center Square, the Democrats imposed the rule change after Capitol Correspondents Association returned press credentialing to the Washington State and House. So wait a second. The Washington Capitol Correspondents Association said, we don't want to be reporters anymore. We don't want to hold the government accountable anymore. Let's give that to the people we're supposed to be holding accountable who really don't like being held accountable. Interesting idea. Interesting move. The Center Square's Carlene Johnson, friend of the show, witnessed as Cho was asked to wait outside the chamber while his credentials were checked. Here's what happened afterwards. A staffer named Aaron Wasser came out, and here's what happened.
Why can't Jonathan?
He's not credentialed.
He is credentialed. He got his credential for the week.
It's right here, sir.
Not the wings.
But the press briefings are in the wings.
Yeah, I know. You can't come into the wings.
I can't come in?
No.
So can I get an escort?
You can go to the gallery. You can go to the press table.
Can you escort me in?
To the press table?
No, I mean, to this press conference so I can be in there with Carlene and ask questions.
Credential. Like, you want a list? I mean, if you want to die on this hill, God bless, but like...
What are you guys afraid of? What are you guys afraid of? I'm just asking questions. I'm not. I'm sorry. What about this one? You see this one? Turning Point USA?
I don't.
Are you familiar with a news organization called Newsmax?
Blank.
Sorry about that.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So I have multiple creds, and...
I mean, Carlene, come in if you want. I mean, if you want to...
No, I'm happy. I'm happy to. I was.
Credential. What are you guys afraid of? You afraid of questions? I don't get it. Yeah, why?
Jonathan, you're not a reporter.
I'm not a reporter. Says who? Is there any person of color in there right now? Aren't you guys all about DEI?
John, good luck with your fear-mongering. Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what's going on. They don't like Jonathan's reporting, so they don't want him in the room. We're really doing this again? We're doing this whole "you're not a journalist" business. Brandy Cruz actually ripped and clipped all the times Jonathan Cho has been called not a journalist despite all the credentials he has and all the awards he has.
Jonathan, you're not a reporter.
I'm not a reporter. Says who?
You're not actually a journalist.
Jonathan, you are not allowed in there.
I'm going to go as I don't understand why I'm not being allowed to go in.
You're not a member of the media, Jonathan.
So we talk with reporters like those in the room.
What are you guys afraid of? What are you guys afraid of? I'm just asking questions.
Not a reporter. That's what they keep saying. Okay, we've featured his articles. We've featured his reporting. He's won awards for his reporting. He has multiple press credentials, but they're keeping him out. You know, Jonathan Cho did eventually get in, and he got into the governor's press conference. Now, it turns out nobody was checking credentials over there, so that's how he was able to get in. But tell me if this sounds like a reporter. This is what he asked Bob Ferguson, Governor Bob Ferguson, during his media availability, because Jonathan covers homelessness. So guess what? He asked some questions about homelessness. Tell me if you think this sounds like a reporter or not.
Governor Ferguson, as you know, homelessness in America is at an all-time high. Washington's ranked number 3. Clearly, the current plan is not working, yet the Trump administration has indicated that they're going to cut some more funding at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development that could impact homelessness even further here. Some of the largest housing providers, DESE, coming out expressing concern. First of all, what's wrong with cutting wasteful spending into programs that are clearly not working and maybe even enabling homelessness on the streets? And also, what is your backup plan in the event the Trump administration does indeed cut even more at HUD?
I think on the point about, hey, what's the plan if there are more cuts? I tried to outline that approach in my remarks, right? Whether it's for homelessness or whether it's for public health or whether it's for education, cuts like that, I believe, are coming. I believe that. And that we certainly have to prepare for it. The way to prepare for that is maintaining those rainy day reserves, for example, right? Is to budget in a way that's sustainable, to put ourselves in as strong a fiscal position as possible for whatever those cuts are, and to minimize big investments now, because who knows what choice we're going to face in the future, right? We need to have the ability to help out Washingtonians if they're the victims of a natural disaster, right? That needs to be something we're able to do. So that is why I'm outlining a budget in the way that I am, is so we're prepared for whatever those cuts might be. And hey, whether it's, to be clear, I think you referred to sort of wasteful spending, whatever term one wants to use, but part of our $4 billion in reductions included things I think most Washingtonians would say, yeah, we should cut, whether we've got a budget challenge or not. I think there's over $4 million for a warehouse that we were still renting based on COVID times for storage, right? The team identified that. We don't need that anymore. That makes sense no matter what. So I think in whatever area of the budget it is, we will need to make sure that every dollar we're expending is working, right? That it's achieving a goal. And when this budget process is over, which is a little hard to think about right now, but it will be over at some point, and after we give KD and her team a good long break, which they deserve, I'll be preparing a supplemental budget and having a chance to go through in more detail than honestly I've had this time.
Is it time to step away from housing first, which is the primary policy?
This is not the time for a lengthy policy discussion on that. There's a lot of stakeholders and folks who have a lot of opinions on that. But as a state, we need to make sure we're continuing our investments to make sure we're helping out folks who are unhoused.
Sounds like a reporter to me. Normal interaction, back and forth, respectful, and interesting policy discussion. I can't even get mad at Bob Ferguson about any of that because everything he said was reasonable. It was all reasonable. So they're going to ban him for that? Well, for the first-hand account, Whoops, that's the wrong clip there. Sorry, pushing that button. That's the wrong button. Play random things at the wrong time. For a first-hand account of what actually happened yesterday in the Capitol. Holy cow, I am having a bad day today. I will tell you that. Having a bad one.
I thought
pushing
I was
red
all
buttons.
scrambled up. No,
No,
that's good
dude,
stuff.
I'm pushing the bad buttons.
Do you got it?
I got it right here.
Okay.
I got it right here. So, now, try that one more time, all right? Joining us now to discuss one of the victims of this, even though he refuses to be a victim, our friend Jonathan Cho from Newsmax, Frontlines, powered by Turning Point USA and the Discovery Institute. Thanks so much for being with us today, sir.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a victor now in this case, but the fight is just getting started.
I love that. Victor, not victim. That's fantastic. Okay, so I specifically introduced you with all the credentials I know you have, and I'm sure you have a lot more. You have multiple awards you've won in the journalist industry. You were given press credentials yesterday to cover a Democrat media availability, which happens once a week, and you were denied access. Tell us what happens.
Yeah, this was really the first day that I could test out this new press credential that's being issued weekly to any reporter who does not cover Olympia regularly. So just to be clear, there are some reporters who are there every day. It's their beat. So they have these, session passes. I don't have one of those, but because of this new rule passed by the Senate Democrats, all reporters who want to go to Olympia now have to, have this badge. And I got it. So I thought I was golden. I knew there were stipulations. For example, if you want to go to the Senate floor, you have to be escorted, by security or another lawmaker. If you and if you wanted to, go to a certain area, of the Senate floor, the media would be designated to a small table to observe. But the big difference here now with this new rule is that in the past, journalists and lawmakers could easily mingle, no questions asked. But again, because of the Capitol Correspondents Association abdicating their responsibility to essentially be the gatekeepers and issue press passes, that privilege now goes away. So in other words, it just gets more complicated and more cumbersome to try to get interviews with certain politicians.
But I actually think it's not just cumbersome and difficult. I think what the problem is that they're actually denying access and saying they get to determine who's a journalist, who's not. So let's take a step back for a second. Anybody who sees those interviews from Washington, D.C. on CNN, Fox, MSNBC, you see in the Capitol Rotunda, there are always other cameras in the background of whoever's being interviewed because they hang out in different parts of the Capitol. People walk up to congressmen and women as they're walking down the halls. We used to have the same privileges here in Olympia, but now they're denying access to people they say aren't real reporters. And that happened to you yesterday, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think that remains probably one of the most frustrating parts about this entire situation. Look, this is 2025. If you haven't been living under a rock, the entire news landscape, especially the legacy news media landscape, is rapidly changing. We're seeing more independence now, digital podcasters, really covering the news, picking up where mainstream media has essentially failed. There's a massive void right now. There are news deserts popping up in smaller communities across Washington state, and citizen journalists now even are covering news stories there because, again, the mainstream media, like the Seattle Times, like Como King, can't get to these places. So, yesterday I thought at the very least, fine, I won't be able to get into the Senate wings without an escort. But I'd be able to at least attend a weekly presser with some of the Senate Democratic leaders. Problem is, the presser was in the wing. So by default, I was iced out. And again, when I, pressed to get inside, essentially the PR hack, Aaron Wasser, who's Senate comms, basically denied me, then, took the next step further by saying, you're not a reporter, obviously insulting me in the process. And I questioned him and I showed him my press credentials, not only the one I was issued by, the Capitol, but also my other, photo IDs with Turning Point, with Newsmax. And also, as you know, Ari, we've done numerous collaborations. My bylines are all over, the Post Millennials website. So that wasn't enough. And I think that's the piece that now needs to be challenged. Who made Aaron Wasser, this PR guy, ultimately, the gatekeeper here? who made him the guy with the ability to determine who's a journalist and who's not? And I think that needs to be challenged.
Now, to play devil's advocate for a second, and I completely agree with you, I'm 100% on your side, but just to give the other side for a second, in the White House for a minute, Donald Trump said the AP can't come to these exclusive events. But, of course, they have free access to everything else in the White House because there are privileges that you get. Not everybody gets to interview the president. I've only been able to interview the president once in my entire career being on the radio. Not everybody gets to do it all the time. Not everybody gets to go into the Oval Office. So some people are trying to draw a comparison between this and you, but I don't see them as fair comparisons because they're saying, no, you're not a journalist. We decide who is and who isn't, and the Trump administration lets in pretty much anybody. And here in Washington, they're also saying you can go sit in the gallery. We're not even allowing you to come to the press-specific events. We're not even talking about interviews with Bob Ferguson, and yet you were able to actually ask Bob Ferguson a question, even though the Senate Democrats didn't let you in.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of, I think, what happened to me yesterday. I thought it was going to be a challenge to actually get into Bob Ferguson's press conference, but in fact, no one stopped me, and Governor Ferguson, to his credit, took two of my questions that I thought, were fair and related to the beat that I cover, which is homelessness in the state of Washington. And, he did the best of his ability, I believe, to answer the question. And I'm looking forward to having more engagement with the governor. But yeah, I think that's the key piece right now, right? When some PR guy decides that I'm not a reporter, I think that's the piece that is going to be challenged, and I think other reporters really need to step up because, if we start letting every single PR guy determine who's a reporter and who's not, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. In fact, what I think we should do is I think today or tomorrow Brandy should go down there, and Brandy should try to get in with the same press pass, and then I should go in the next day, and then Mario Lotmore from the Linwood Times, and so on and so on and so on, and just say, who are you to decide what's a journalist, what's not a journalist, especially when you're talking about people with the credentials? You've won awards. Brandy's won awards. I've won an award. I mean, seriously, at this point, you got to be asking yourselves, who are they to get to decide this? And at what point does this become a legal matter where you guys have to start suing them to enforce the First Amendment?
Well, it's clearly political. There's no doubt that, Wasser is a Democratic operative, and he doesn't like me. He assumes that, I carry the water for conservatives and independents, and he doesn't like that. And he's clearly afraid of questions because that's all I ask for a living, by the way, just to be clear so your audience understands. And I want to add that Wasser was so shook and concerned about my presence that state troopers were called to tail me for the remainder of my time at the state capitol. Obviously, I had done nothing wrong. They didn't find anything wrong with my presence or anything along those lines. But just the lengths that these Democrats are willing to go. So, yes, this is now in the camp where we have to reconsider litigation. And again, just to remind you and your audience how we got to this point, we forced the hand of the Capitol Correspondents Association and we threatened legal action if we didn't get press credentials. So instead of simply affording us the privilege of covering the news like every other reporter, they decided to punt and give that power to politicians for the first time in history. So I think that's the most telling piece. And again, the two people in charge of the Capitol Correspondents Association, Jerry Cornfield with the Washington State Standard and Jeannie Lindsay of NPR affiliate KUOW, they clearly decided that Brandy and I weren't worthy.
So I'm having a little fun right now. While you were talking, I typed out a quick email. Not that I was ignoring you, but I wanted to read this on air so I could do it with you. I'm about to send this to Aaron Wasser. I have his email address. And it's a request for a comment. And I wrote, "Good morning, Aaron. Can you please explain to me how you define a journalist? What qualifies for press access to get into the wings? Would you say that I qualify as a radio host, editor of the Post-Millennial/Human Events, columnist for Newsweek, and regular guest on Fox and Newsmax?" What do you think he's going to say to that, Jonathan?
I mean, I think he's going to be caught with his pants down because I think what he's done is by, essentially blocking me from entering and calling me someone who's, saying that I'm not a reporter. He's setting a bad precedent for himself. He's digging his own grave. I think his hand's going to be forced. I think calmer and, wiser minds will prevail in this case. I mean, this is insane. They're going to lose in the long run, especially if it gets to litigation. So, yeah, I'd be interested in knowing how he defines a reporter in this day and age, and why my credentials and all your credentials, potentially, if he denies you, wouldn't qualify to be called a reporter.
Yeah, I completely agree. Jonathan, you're doing great work on behalf of all of us who believe in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and everything else that founded this country and make this country great. Thank you for fighting, and I can't believe, I'm ashamed that so many members of the media are not standing by you.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that hurts the most. We really have, strength in numbers, and right now we're all fractured and we're not standing together. So we'll see how this all shakes out.
Jonathan Cho, who is a journalist with the Discovery Institute, Newsmax, Turning Point USA's Frontlines, and too many other outlets to mention. Really appreciate you joining us today.
All right, take care, Ari.
Always a pleasure. And I'll tell you something else, my friends, is that it is absolutely mind-boggling to me, that the mainstream media hasn't said anything about this. You know why? Because it's going to happen to them next. What if they say, hey, The Stranger? Yeah, we don't think they're a media outlet, but guess what they are? The Stranger, you guys can't come in anymore. Hey, Seattle Times, you can't come in anymore. Hey, Como, Cairo, anybody else, you can't come in anymore. If they did it to Jonathan Cho and they did it to Brandy Cruz and they tried to do it to the Center Square, they can do it to anybody else. It's absolutely crazy to me, absolutely mind-blowing to me. We don't have media in Seattle, in Western Washington, in Washington at all anymore. When we come back, lots more to discuss as the show continues. Now we're going to be giving out speeding tickets based on equity. So depending on how much you make, that's how much you get fined. That doesn't sound very equitable. We'll give you the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Is Portland about to get a baseball team? I didn't even know this was in the works, by the way, and I consider myself a baseball fan. Football, I don't know anything about. I didn't know Portland was trying for a baseball team. Is that really going to affect the Mariners? I don't really think so, but what would we call the Portland baseball team? Text us what you think, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Are we going to call them the Antifas? The homeless? The drug addicts? The food trucks, perhaps? What would you call? Don't they have like the Sea Dogs or something? That's the minor league affiliate that's down there right now. Something Dogs. I know they have some. I forget whose team they are, but there is a minor league affiliate. But they're trying to get a professional baseball team. Trying to build a stadium on the waterfront. According to KATU, an effort to secure funding for a new baseball stadium in Portland is moving forward. A Senate committee moved a bill forward with a due pass recommendation. It approves $800 million in bonds to fund the stadium's construction. I'm never big on this. The bonds would be repaid through a tax on players. Yeah, I'm sure they want to come play for your team then. Sure, you're going to recruit the best ones for that. Hey, Juan Soto, you want to come play for us? I know you just signed your $750 million contract with the Mets, but we're going to tax that too. Okay, Portland loves to tax everything. You think it's bad here? I don't think we've started taxing the players yet for playing baseball. I mean, we tax their salaries and tax everything else. The proposed ballpark would be located south of downtown and north of the waterfront. The bill now goes to the Senate floor for a vote. Yeah, really, what would you call these guys? What is Portland known for? The library, the books, the bookstore. That's what Portland has. I don't know what else you would call them. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, San Francisco is going to start writing speeding tickets based on equity. Yeah, that's right. You heard that correctly. Fox News has a story for us. It's insane. I'm just going to identify as homeless if I ever drive in San Francisco. That's it. I'm homeless. Wait, don't we do that for parking tickets here in Seattle? It's not equal protection under the law. If you're homeless, you don't get parking tickets. If you're homeless, you don't get registration tickets, but the rest of us taxpayers do? Yeah, that's ridiculous. It'll be challenged in court, by the way. No way that's going to continue. So I have some suggestions for the team. The Fentanyl Flyers from Brett in Maple Valley. Oh, that's very, very good. Got this one from Scott, the Portland Beavers. David says, the Portland Trans Bolsheviks People's Republic. Oh, no. It's just the Portland Trans Bolsheviks. That's from David. From the People's
try
Republic.
fitting that on a jersey.
Yeah, that's not going to work. The Portland Pigs. The Portland Unsheltered Neighbors. The Portland Peaceful Protesters. Oh, these are all good. You guys are outdoing yourselves today. That's really, really good stuff. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Mark in Shoreline. Mark, what's up?
Ari, we've talked before. You're never going to believe this. I went to the school district office to do some business. American flag was on top of the pole. Probably, I looked about a 6x10. Then the POW flag. And then the Washington State flag, which is all okay. But what they've done is they've taken a 3x5 Black Lives Matter, and they've sewn it to the Washington State flag on the bottom right corner.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they've sold the deal. I go, that's got to be against the law.
So you know what they did at Garfield? I was driving past Garfield High School the other day. They've got 3 giant flagpoles. They've got a giant American flag, a giant African flag, which, okay, I have questions, and a giant pride flag. And then under the under the American flag is the Washington State flag. Now, some of this you can chalk up to ignorance. Some of this you can chalk up to virtue signaling. I'm just kind of curious about this insanity because everybody has a flag for everything. Hey, you're near the Jewish neighborhood. How about throwing up an Israeli flag? How about putting one of those up there? No, I'm not actually asking for that. Can we just make it, you get the American flag and the Washington State flag and you're done? That's it? Because I'm tired of all this nonsense. I really, really am. And every time they redo the pride flag, it costs me taxpayer money because they got to go buy a new stupid virtue signaling flag.
the Black Lives Matter flag to the Washington State flag.
That's new. That's a new one I haven't seen before. Mark, do me a favor. If you see it again, get me a picture of it, all right? Appreciate the call. Appreciate the tip. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. Got about a minute left. Go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Marcia in Silverdale. Marcia, what's going on?
Well, we want to keep Portland weird, don't we? So there should probably be called the Portland Weirdos.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. In fact, we've got a few other ones here, Marcia. Tell me what you think of these. Matt Gilbert says the Portland Proletariats. I've got the Portland Needles, the Portland Porta Potties, the Willamette Whammies. Oh, these are great. You guys are killing it today. These are absolutely amazing. Marcia, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Appreciate the humor today. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. And just before we go to break, as I mentioned earlier, Mike and I were cleaning out some drawers around here in KVI. And we found some extra tickets to John Carlson's Goodbye Party. Now, if you want to win these very few, very limited tickets, you have to do a few things. Number one, you have to be sure you can go. Lots of people want to go. Lots of people aren't going to be able to go because we have limited capacity. So make sure you can go. It's going to be Friday at 6 p.m. at a location in Kirkland, which we will tell you about later in the week. So only if you can go, not maybe you can go. We're going to give away tickets now to caller number 5 and caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We're going to give away 2 pairs, one to caller number 5, one to caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, the latest insanity from the Washington State Legislature. What are they trying to pass right now? Julie Barrett from Conservative Ladies of America and Conservative Ladies of Washington will join us next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Olympia has been absolutely crazy the past few days. In fact, I'd say the entire session. There's nothing that the Democrats don't want to tax. There's nothing that they don't want to spend money on. We have common sense coming out of Bob Ferguson for half a minute. I mean, who could have predicted any of this? It's all absolutely insane. Joining us now to help us break it all down, the Florida woman herself, Julie Barrett from Conservative Ladies of America and Conservative Ladies of Washington. Thanks so much for being back with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So, were you as shocked as I was when you saw that Bob Ferguson yesterday said he's not going to sign either one of these budgets, or did you say, well, his ambition seems to be winning out here?
I think he's doing sort of a Gavin Newsom kind of thing. I think he's trying to rebrand himself a little bit, trying to garner some trust from the people. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what he signs and what he potentially vetoes out of this session. I don't trust that guy for anything.
I'm right there with you, 1,000%. I'm right there with you.
So we'll see. I'm very anxious to see what he's going to do with everything that's coming out of Olympia that's going to hit his desk soon. So
now, one of his pet projects has been this hate crime hotline and going after hate crimes. So I can't see him getting rid of that or getting rid of the money that's going towards that. But at the same time, we have 911. We have ways of tracking hate crimes through the FBI. We have ways of tracking hate crimes through local law enforcement. And yet they want to spend money on this thing that's basically going to be weaponized against conservatives. I don't see him pulling the money for that, but at the same time, we have a $15 billion budget deficit according to the Democrats. We have a $7 billion budget deficit according to the Republicans, and they're going to keep spending money on stupidity like this.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've been going through their 1,300 plus page budget, just kind of searching for different things, and it is unbelievable to me how much funding there is in there for nonprofit organizations for across the board, whether it's housing or abortion or healthcare or immigrants, you name it, there is funding, and there's no specified. And I know you look at all these, nonprofits that are getting all this money. None of them are specified. It just is a nonprofit, that helps LGBTQ and BIPOC.
Yeah, that plus if you actually go into the Washington State checkbook, I want you to do me a favor, Julie, because I know you have the link for it and you've seen the stuff we've seen. Type in ABC. There are so many random companies that nobody has any idea what they do. It's just the ABC this and ABC that. I have a lot of questions when I see payments to ABC. Is the mob involved? Are these shell companies? Is Tony Soprano getting a check? What's going on here?
Yeah, well, probably somebody who the taxpayers wouldn't want their money to be going to is getting money. And, when you opened, you were talking about the hate crimes. And, this is something that I think your audience, and I know ours, watches very closely. And yesterday I posted what I found as far as hate crimes and the domestic violent extremist terrorism task force thing. And they've got in 2025 and 2026, they've got over $2 million for the hate crimes and bias incidents. And when I posted this, I can't tell you how many radical lefties came out of the woodwork on Facebook to call us names and basically commit hate crimes against us on Facebook.
That's
and
crazy.
Of course, like if I called the hate crime hotline and said, hey, this person threatened, us conservative ladies. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, you're white and you're heterosexual. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And then they're also funding this task force, which is just a task force. They meet on Zoom, and they're funding them with $500,000.
Right. They're funding BLM as part of that, remember. They have one of the heads of BLM in that, whose treasurer was actually just arrested for drug dealing after having his sentence commuted by Jay Inslee. And we know that BLM is just one colossal grift. We know it's an anti-Semitic organization. We know it's an anti-American organization. I mean, let's do the numbers for a second here, Julie. The attacks against Jews nationally make up for more than 60% of the hate crimes overall, even though Jews are only 2% of the population. By their logic, all that money should be coming to Jewish organizations. And surprise, surprise, it's not, because I do fundraising for a lot of them.
Right. And you know what is interesting about what they're doing, how they're funding this, and they're calling it a public health crisis.
So you just reminded me of something. There is a banner in my neighborhood. Somebody put up a banner. It's on this little old bus stop that's not a bus stop anymore. And it says, racism is a pandemic. Okay. So this thing has been there since COVID. And what's funny is, I mean, nobody should vandalize anybody's property, but somebody vandalized it with pro-Hamas graffiti, right? And put it on that thing. And you would say, oh, yeah, but then I find out that the people who put this thing up there are the same people who are on the side of the free Palestine people. It seems like the left is eating itself. If you ask them to define a hate crime, it really just comes down to, well, anything that's against the left is a hate crime.
Exactly. Anything they don't like or anything they disagree with.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers crazy. All right, what else are they wasting our money on in the last few minutes we have with you today?
Well, they've got a lot of funding going to immigrants, from healthcare to housing, and you know that they're working to allow them to be law enforcement officers, prosecutors, and even firefighters, which is concerning because those jobs offer really unique benefits to the people that sign up to do those jobs. So having to compete with foreigners for those positions is not good. There's an immense amount of funding for the failing public schools, as you probably know.
Mm-hmm.
And just pet projects, right? Like these LGBTQ curriculums. All of the bills that have been funded, like last session, are getting their funding, their appropriated amounts in this year's budget. And what is also interesting is I can go in and search by bill number, and they've already appropriated funds for bills that haven't even passed yet.
Of course, because they're just playing the long game, and they're just going to dig us in deeper and deeper and tax us more and more. Julie Barrett from Conservative Ladies of America and Conservative Ladies of Washington. If people want to sign up for your newsletter, if people want to see your website, what's the best way for them to do so?
Have them go to conservativeladiesofwa.com.
Julie Barrett, thank you so much for joining us. You should go over there right now. Sign up for her newsletter. It's one of my best sources of information. Should be yours as well. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Ari. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and 6 tickets to the Washington State Spring Fair. Yeah, another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com. Download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Sad news out of Hollywood last night. Val Kilmer. That's right, star of Top Gun, Batman Forever, Tombstone, Heat, and we could go on, has passed away at the age of 65. Iceman, you'll always be my wingman. Mike, you'll always be my wingman, too. That's right.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, you got that, man.
I'll fly with you anytime.
There we go. So
you be my wingman.
So Val Kilmer apparently died of pneumonia. He had throat cancer, we know, but he was very, I don't want to say secretive about his disease. We knew he had it, and he talked with a tracheotomy type box on him, so we knew that, especially if you saw the documentary Val about his life. Now, I will warn you, before watching that thing on Amazon out of nostalgia, it's a heavy watch. It's a heavy watch. It's not the Val Kilmer you think you know that you've seen on screen. It's actually really, really sad. Really sad. Now, you want to watch it? That's your warning. You can go watch it. We did a review of it some time ago. You can probably find the podcast over at KVI.com or whatever your preferred podcast platform is. But, I mean, I think of Val Kilmer, and I think of Top Secret, his first big leading man role on screen. Thursday, but that's Simchas Torah. I love that movie. I love that stupid Naked Gun kind of humor. It's great. You know, you had that. You had Real Genius. Then you had Top Gun, where it was a completely different character. Think about this. Real Genius and Top Gun were a year apart. A year apart. That's how the range he had as an actor, which is incredible. Of course, one of his best roles was as Jim Morrison in The Doors. Now, I didn't like The Doors movie, but he was very good as Jim Morrison. I know I'm in the minority of thinking about it. A lot of people love that movie. Tombstone as Doc Holliday. In Heat, you know, they actually have training videos on how to fire guns that they use to train federal agents because of how he did it in Heat. They use his performance to show them how to reload. I mean, we can skip the Batman Forever. I don't think Val Kilmer was the problem with that movie. Good Bruce Wayne. He's just kind of standing there as Batman. That's my personal take on the Batman Forever.
Do you think now that both director Joel Schumacher and Val Kilmer are now gone, maybe there'll be a swelling of support to wait for it, release the Schumacher cut?
Oh, God, I hope not.
I wouldn't mind checking it out. It has like a giant scary bat in it. It has like a half hour of extra footage in it. Apparently, it's darker and scarier from what I've heard.
Okay, well, maybe that'll be better because all that neon stuff did nothing for the movie. That was a weird Gotham City. It was like you were trying to do a new spin on the 60s stupidity, which I get at the time of the 60s, but whatever. I want to know what your favorite Val Kilmer movie is. Text us, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Of course, the clip that was going around last night was his last appearance on screen, which is in Top Gun Maverick, which some people thought was cheesy, and some people it made them cry, and some people it was just in the middle as a nice little bonus. Let us know what your favorite Val Kilmer movie is, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Of course, I'm very connected to the Island of Dr. Moreau because we did the play in college, and I played his role. Man, that was one of the worst plays I've ever been in, and there is video footage of it somewhere. It's terrible. Really, really bad.
Also, don't sleep on The Saint. That movie secretly kind of rules.
That's a good one right there. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, including Liberation Day. Donald Trump announces tariffs. We'll tell you what's heading the way of other countries when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to the Washington State Spring Fair. But before we get to any of that, looks like a lot of people are calling me out for missing Willow as one of Val Kilmer's movies. How could I have missed that movie? By the way, he married his co-star from that. They got divorced later, but that's who he has his kids with. So, yeah, sorry for missing Willow as a Val Kilmer movie. I apologize for that one. Also, Jason says, yeah, what about The Saint? He's 100% right. 360 says, Doc Holliday was Oscar-worthy. I completely agree. He was robbed. Or the fact, I don't even remember if he was nominated or not. But yes, I'm sorry I forgot Willow. Right here, this one from the 253 says, what about Thunderheart? You know, I've never seen Thunderheart, and people have been telling me to watch Thunderheart, so that one I got to add to the list. In fact, there's a bunch of Val Kilmer movies I want to revisit. I want to revisit Heat. I want to go and watch the Thunderheart, and I want to revisit the Doc Holliday because I haven't seen Tombstone in a long, long time. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Beth Ann in Auburn. Beth, what's going on?
Hi. Speaking of Doc Holliday, yes, he was wonderful in that. He just had the best look for a Western. The goatee, everything. The black hat, he was wonderful.
Yeah, it was really, really good. In fact, I know people who like that movie more than Top Gun and will put that up there. They think of him not as Ice. I think of him as Iceman, or I think of him as Real Genius, or Nick Rivers, or whatever it is from Top Secret. But a lot of people go, no, he's my Huckleberry. That's how they will always think of him. Beth, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. So today, President Donald Trump announced Liberation Day, which is all the tariffs that the U.S. is going to be leveling on other countries. Now, before this, the White House has to make the case because this is a risky move. This could actually torpedo the economy. It could, or it could do good things for the economy. Let's remember, tariffs are actually more of a Democrat policy than a Republican policy. Now, the first way they start by making the case is the Trump administration put together this montage of all the investments they have brought back to the U.S., and when you hear $5 trillion in investments, you realize that is nothing to sneer at. That is pretty significant. You need a montage.
President Trump pushing ahead with his America First agenda.
Breaking news, Apple announced it's going to work with Foxconn to build a server factory in Texas by 2026.
The company says it is now planning to invest $500 billion in the U.S. economy.
The CEO of SoftBank pledging to invest $100 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years.
This is President Trump delivering on the promise he made to the American people on the campaign trail.
The idea is come to America, build greatness in America, build for the American customers.
Project Stargate. It's a joint venture between SoftBank, Oracle, and OpenAI, and they're going to create a data center that will eventually be expanded to other states.
Shows people are listening to Mr. Trump's pitch to bring new industry to America.
This is the latest pledge from a foreign business leader promising to spend big in the U.S. as a result of Trump's election victory.
Founder of the property development company DeMac Properties is pledging the money.
President Trump announcing $100 billion investment from Taiwan Semiconductor, bringing the company's total American investments to $165 billion.
The most powerful AI chips in the world will be made right here in America.
Things happen so quickly in the Trump world, right? It's 100 days. Right. It feels like it's 100 months. This is leadership. This is taking control of the problem for military, for everything, for industrial, for our economy. Even if it causes short-term pain, the reality is it is the right decision.
NVIDIA says it will invest hundreds of billions of dollars over the next 4 years, part of the manufacturing renaissance under President Donald J. Trump.
Now, this is over $5 trillion in investments. That clip goes on for another minute and 42 seconds because there were so many investments, so many companies coming back to the U.S., and that is good, and that is huge, and that means American jobs. Now, That does mean things will be more expensive because it costs more to make things in America, and a lot of that is the union's fault. And the union likes having the jobs here. The unions like having the jobs here because that means more union dues for them. There's a whole bunch of reasons why. There's a whole bunch of things at play here. So I pulled up the list of the reciprocal tariffs. That's what they're calling them. And I looked at the list, and what's fascinating to me, they did a good job making their case for the tariffs. You know why? They put up not just what we're going to be tariffing those countries, but what those countries typically tariff U.S. products right now, what they tariff them. Now, across the board, it looks like if it's a 10%, then we're doing a 10%. But if it's anything higher than, let's say, 20%, it's about half of that. But here's an example. China, tariffs charged to the U.S. is 67%. So we're doing the reciprocal tariffs of 34%. EU, 39%. We're doing 20%. Now, I think this graph was made before countries like Vietnam and Israel said they're dropping all tariffs because they have Vietnam. Vietnam has a 90% tariff to the U.S. It said we were going to be charging them 46%. I need to check in with the White House if that's going to hold true. Taiwan, 64%. We're charging them 32%. Japan, 46%. We're charging them 24%. So if the goal here is to get everybody on the same tariff level, then this actually works. I like what they're doing right here, where they say, bring it down to this, we'll compromise here, and we'll see how many countries actually go for this. The problem is that tariffs don't charge the other countries. The tariffs charge us, the consumers, because now we are the ones paying the tariffs, which means prices are going to go up on a lot of this stuff. Now, the president actually addressed this directly when he was making the announcement today.
In the coming days, there will be complaints from the globalists and the outsourcers and special interests and the fake news. Always, the fake news will always complain. But never forget, every prediction our opponents made about trade for the last 30 years has been proven totally wrong. They were wrong about NAFTA. They were wrong about China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate that, United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. You would have had no jobs. It was all going to other countries. In my first term, they said tariffs would crash the economy. Instead, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. And again, I have great respect for President Xi of China, great respect for China, but they were taking tremendous advantage of us, and I commend them for that. I say, hey, if you can get away with it, that's okay. But, they understand exactly what's happening, and they probably, most of them are saying it's about time they did something, but and they're going to fight, and they're going to fight fair. Everyone's going to fight. It's like, I say to the leaders, look, you got to take care of your country, but we have to start taking care of our country now. We can't do what we've been doing for the last 50 years.
He's 100% right. He's 100% right, but at least he's warning you what's going to happen. Now, this is going to get rocky, but at least now there's stability. Here's why I say the stock market is not always a good indicator. Would you like to know why? This is now a list, and now the uncertainty isn't there anymore. So as a result of this, the stock market might actually start doing better. I haven't checked today's results. I've not been looking at the stock market because when you look at the stock market, that's when you freak out. My plan is always long-term hold. That's what I do because over time you're always going to do okay. But looking at this list, this is stability. So a lot of people are very encouraged by this because there's no more guesswork. Here's what's actually going on. So why did the president do all this? The even playing field he mentioned before. Bring the jobs back to America, he mentioned before. But he said a few other things that I thought were fascinating today. Give a listen.
From 1789 to 1913, we were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government. Then in 1929, it all came to a very abrupt end with the Great Depression, and it would have never happened if they had stayed with the tariff policy. It would have been a much different story. They tried to bring back tariffs to save our country, but it was gone. It was gone. It was too late. Nothing could have been done. It took years and years to get out of that depression, far longer than even FDR had that office right over there for a long period of time. The ramp system, it's rather intricate, was built because of him, and every time you walk up, you think of him, and he did a great job in many ways, but it lasted long beyond his terms, as you know. But it's not too late any longer, and we're going to start being smart, and we're going to start being very wealthy again. We're going to be wealthy as a country because they've taken so much of our wealth away from us. We're not going to let that happen. We truly can be very wealthy. We can be so much wealthier than any country. It's not even believable, but we're getting smart.
Now, I went back and fact-checked him. I did, because this is not something I've ever researched before, and I love history. And by the way, he's right on most of that. He really is. He's right on a lot of that. Now, we switched over from taxing other countries / tariffs to taxing our own citizens. And we've seen what that does. You know, we had a revolution over a 3% tax, right? You all know that, right? How much do you pay in taxes right now? Just for comparison there. That still makes this a very, very risky move. Because what happens is if the economy tanks, will it recover with enough time? I'm giving you the pros and cons for this. Here's something else. It takes time to build those factories. Those jobs aren't going to be here right away. This is a long-term play. In fact, this is one of those things that if the economy goes down right now and rebounds later, the next guy may get to take credit for it, whether that's J.D. Vance or Gavin Newsom or whoever it's going to be, because it takes time. It's not like, poof, there's a factory. It's not like when you do Sim City and you say, I want to build a factory right here, and then it's built. They got a little bit more realistic since I played that game back in the 90s, the OG version. But Donald Trump was saying why he was doing this, who he's trying to help with these actions.
With today's actions, we're also standing up for our great farmers and ranchers who are brutalized by nations all over the world. It's brutalized. Canada, by the way, imposes a 250 to 300% tariff on many of our dairy products. They do the first can of milk. They do the first little carton of milk at a very low price, but after that it gets bad, and then it gets up to 275, 300%. So when they're figuring what's Canada charging, they say, oh, about 2%, 3%. But take a look at what happens down the road. When you look a little bit, it's not a pretty picture, and we don't like it, and it's not fair. It's not fair to our farmers. It's not fair to our country. And with countries like Canada, you know, we subsidize a lot of countries and keep them going and keep them in business. In the case of Mexico, it's $300 billion a year. In the case of Canada, it's close to $200 billion a year. And I say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I mean, at what point do we say you got to work for yourselves, and you got to? This is why we have the big deficits. This is why we have that amount of debt that's been placed on our heads over the last number of years, and we're really not taking it anymore. Through non-tariff barriers, the European Union bans imports of most American poultry. You understand? They say, we want to send you our cars, we want to send you everything, but we're not going to take anything that you have. Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year alone. They won't take any of our beef. They don't want it because they don't want it to affect their farmers. And you know what? I don't blame them, but we're doing the same thing right now, starting about midnight tonight, I would say.
So these are all excellent, excellent points. It's not really free trade. It's restricted trade. You want free trade? Let's do free trade. Now, I believe this is a bigger deal than Donald Trump has ever done before. I really do, because you have to negotiate with every single country in the world. And if we're listening to the guy who wrote Art of the Deal, hey, I'm curious to see what happens. I really am. I think this is going to be fascinating. Absolutely fascinating to watch, because if he pulls this off, he is the ultimate deal maker. Hey, if he can make peace in the Middle East, which he did, and that has held up even through Biden's disaster, I'm really curious to see how this goes. But he does mention that this is also a national security issue. And I think that's something that gets overlooked.
In Sleepy Joe Biden's last year in office, the United States hemorrhaged 100,000 manufacturing jobs, and the number was going through the roof at levels never seen before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, it was a horror show. I was able to terminate it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting text on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost while racking up trade deficits of $19 trillion. That was the worst trade deal ever made. As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets than think of this, than the Americans own of their own foreign assets or other foreign assets. The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. We have a tremendous problem. We have to go to foreign countries to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics. We used to dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries. A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that.
Now, I want to know what you think, because I can see the good, I can see the bad, I can see the risk, I can see the reward. I'm looking at this fairly. I am not diehard in on tariffs, and I'm looking at this thing right now going, this is a big gamble, could pay off really well, could backfire pretty spectacularly, could do something else. Watch the leftist narrative, though. You know what the leftist narrative is? I heard it from some people this morning. But the economy's going so well, this is going to crater the economy. Do you think the economy is going so well? Well, the stock market was doing so great. No. Anybody who says the economy is doing well right now has no idea what that actually means. You think inflation's doing well right now? How's the prices at the grocery stores? Thankfully, they've come down because of some of the things Donald Trump has done, like eggs, like gasoline. But the economy is not doing well. But the unemployment, no, the unemployment is not that good. And by the way, when you keep paying government workers, that means you are artificially inflating the unemployment numbers. That's not a true indicator of how things are going. But the stock market, no, the stock market is overheated right now. Companies are overvalued right now. That is a false indicator. I want to know what you think. Are you for the tariff policy? You against the tariff policy? Or are you kind of like a wait and see kind of deal? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I want to know what you think about the tariffs. Also, just a reminder for everybody, this is nothing new. He's been saying this since the 1980s and 1990s. I believe this was an appearance on Oprah's show. Here's what then real estate mogul Donald Trump said. Exactly. So I want to know what you think. Let us know what you think of the tariffs. Good idea, bad idea, indifferent, wait and see. Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including, has big tech finally turned on the Washington State Democrats? Oh, it's so much fun to watch. But before we get to any of that, here's your Daily Thoughtcast with Todd Herman right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the Washington State Spring Fair. Yeah, another reason always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com. Download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Looks like a lot of you want to weigh in on President Trump's tariff policy, so we go right to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Nick in Lewis County. Nick, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's going on, man?
Yeah, so this whole thing with the tariffs, I absolutely agree. That's something that should have been done long time ago. So it is long overdue. I just think that maybe we could have kind of like break it down in like phase 1, phase 2. Because so this way it would be a little bit easier on, you're not putting, X amount of countries on chopping block. You're just putting one. And then the other country kind of knows, hey, we're probably going to be next. Let's figure this thing out. Let's talk to the United States.
So I think I think that's kind of what they did, Nick. I mean, don't forget, he first hit the threats against Mexico and Canada. And let's not forget, just yesterday you had Israel and Vietnam saying they're rolling back all their tariffs. So I'm not even sure what they're going to be tariffing those guys. And I think there was a lot of behind-the-scenes discussion because a lot of people said, is he serious? Is he not serious? So watching the news over the next few days about who does what is really going to be fascinating. Yeah, because hitting everybody with the prices all at once, I mean, we don't know what that's going to do to prices. It's going to be something we really have to watch because also don't forget, government's a huge freight train. It's not something that just, you can stop on a dime.
Yeah, because everybody was thinking for a while, oh, it's just going to be cars, so we're still fine. And then now people are realizing, oh, it's going to be clothes and textile and other random things and cars. So now people are like, oh, wow, this is going to be a lot of different things going up in prices.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I just don't think, everyday person, the common man was kind of like, actually ready for it. But, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of tough time right there.
When people see their prices spike, that's when really the road hit the tires hit the road hits the pavement. Something's hitting something else. But that's when we're really going to see.
Yeah, blow out
exactly.
Them all. Yeah.
That's when we're really going to see it. Nick, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to weigh in on the tariff situation, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Robin Lakewood said regarding that last clip I played, Oprah wanted Trump to run for president. Yeah, that's right. Even if prices go up, new U.S. factory workers will have higher wages. From the 253, I will wait and see about Trump's tariffs. I do find it funny, though, how Trump is playing at their own game. He's not taking any BS, and I'm happy to have a president that stands up for us. Yeah, he's right. Julie says, I am for the tariffs, although I am a bit apprehensive about it. The numbers are staggering of what the rest of the world's been doing, and they should have been paying their fair share. Well, yeah, she's right, by the way. Isn't that what the Democrats say all the time? Pay your fair share. Julie, I think you may have just given the Republicans their talking point. We just want the countries to pay their fair share. Another 253 says, wait and see if there are pros and cons. I hope things go well, not just because Trump is president, but because it'll help our country prosper in the future and all of our families. Thanks for asking. Love your program. Very nice of you to say. John in Lakewood says, guys, if he pulls this off, it would be the piece de la resistance of the deal. That's right. He says he's for the tariffs if done proportionally. And that sounds like exactly what's going to happen. 360 says for the tariffs and waiting to see what happens. Yeah, it seems like that's the overall consensus we have going on here. You want to weigh in, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. 5757. Switching gears over here to this other big news of the day, Amazon, Alaska Airlines, Costco, Microsoft, Nordstrom's, among many, many companies that are saying the Washington State Democrats do not go ahead with all these taxes. We will lose our workers and we will move out of state. They are saying, do not do this. It will screw up the state's economy, which is code for we will leave if you do this. People will leave. Let's not forget the Seattle City Council was warned about the exact same thing, and they went ahead with it anyway. And guess what? Amazon left. Other companies left town also, and now they are drawing in less money than they thought they were going to draw in, and they don't have as much people to tax, and they've lost a whole bunch of businesses because of how empty South Lake Union is. That big, beautiful neighborhood that was all redone with Amazon tax money, guess what? Nobody's there anymore. It's like a giant ghost town down there right now. I remember going down there in 2018, 2019, before COVID, and how busy and how bustling it was down there. It made me feel like I was in Manhattan. It really, really did. In fact, I switched barbers because my barber was down there back when nobody ever went down there, and then I moved somewhere else. I moved to downtown where there was a lot less people, actually. Plus, it's on my way to work here. But it's crazy how empty that place is now because Amazon left. Now imagine if Amazon, Alaska Airlines, Costco, Microsoft, Nordstrom all said, we're out of here. What would that do to the Washington state economy? Well, enough bad news. Let's do some good news for a second here. My friends, we have found some extra tickets to give away for John Carlson's Big Goodbye Bash at 6 p.m. in Kirkland on Friday. We'll send you the exact location later in the week, but we have 2 pairs of tickets to give away right now. Please do not call in if you're not sure if you can make it. Only if you are sure you can make it out to Kirkland at 6 p.m. on Friday, because a lot of people want to go and we don't have a lot of tickets left. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give away 2 pairs of tickets right now to callers number 5 and callers number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 5 and caller number 10 will get a pair of tickets to John Carlson's Big Goodbye Bash at 6 p.m. on Friday out in Kirkland. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, one of Burion's city council members who's been fighting really, really hard to make sure they can clean up Burien and not become Seattle is going to be joining us because she's running for re-election, and she has some great news for us as well. Stephanie Moore joins us next. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. For so long, perhaps unfairly, I called Burien Little Seattle. It seemed like for a while Burien was chasing after Seattle. How can we out Seattle? But the past few years have shown me that there are common sense people in Burien government who don't want their city to turn into Seattle and have worked and fought very, very hard to change it. One of them joins us now on the KVI studio line, former deputy mayor and current Burien City Council member, Stephanie Mora. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Now, Stephanie, a lot of people may not know how hard you guys have all been fighting because it seems like this is a group effort, and you've been one of the people leading the charge against making sure that Burien doesn't turn into Seattle. You want to make sure that you don't have people sleeping everywhere and that they get help and get off the streets. And you guys have had to go head-to-head with the county. You've had to go head-to-head with the sheriff. You had to wait for a Supreme Court decision to actually decide this stuff for you just to make Burien great again.
Yes, exactly. That was our biggest thing that we had to fight for this past year, is making sure that we were fighting against King County and King County Sheriff's Office to ensure that our public safety was being met and we weren't just allowing outside sources to influence what we were doing here in Burien.
Yeah, and you guys did an amazing job, but the fact that you had to fight so hard to enforce your own laws is absolutely crazy. So just so people remember what happened, the Burien City Council came out with a new ordinance. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, or you can go to treatment, as I call it, the semisonic plan. And what happened is the King County Sheriff, who's a political appointee of former King County Executive Dow Constantine, said, I'm not going to enforce this. Dow Constantine decided to fight them on this because he believes it's a housing issue, not a drug issue, not a mental health issue, not an alcohol issue, not a crime issue. And basically what happened was they had to fight to enforce their own laws. So is the King County Sheriff actually complying with the ordinance now?
Yes, they are actually complying now. It was actually interesting because it was almost a year that they were not enforcing it. And it wasn't until, I want to say January, and towards the end of January, we updated our ordinance to actually make it stricter. And they changed their stance and they said, actually, we're going to enforce it now. So that was really interesting to see how they changed their position. And I'm still curious to know why. I don't think we'll ever know exactly why they changed their position. But even after their case was dismissed by the court system back in September, they still weren't enforcing it. Even after the Supreme Court made their ruling, they still were not enforcing it. So it wasn't until we actually strengthened our camping ordinance and actually said, you know what, we're not going to allow camping anywhere in the city. And that was just a couple of months ago. So that has been really nice being able to see finally that support coming in.
So this has taken up all the oxygen. And if you're just joining us, we're talking with Stephanie Mora, who is a city council member out in Burien. What are the other things you guys accomplished this session around? Because so many people are paying attention to the homeless thing, they didn't notice the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I am also proud of is all of our staff. We had a lot of staff no longer wanted to work in Burien. And for me, I was kind of like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay choosing staff that is actually willing to execute our will of the council. And so we have a new police chief. We have a new city manager, parks director. We have an entire new planning commission. So those are some of the things that I'm really proud of, that I was able to kind of see what was going on behind the scenes and also put in some input of who we were actually going to replace our staff with.
This is all big stuff. This is all important stuff. Unfortunately, it got lost in the background of the big homeless fight. Now, Stephanie, council member, you are running for re-election. What do you want to accomplish the next time around? Why should Burien send you back as if they didn't have enough reasons already after solving all this and fighting so hard for them?
One of my big things, and I was one of the people that asked for it the first day that I started on council, and that was I wanted to do a public safety levy. And the main reason for that is I wanted our own police force. And it was kind of in the background, not really something we were so much focused on as much as the camping ordinance. And finally, this past year, with the whole back and forth with King County Sheriff's Office, this reminded me, you know what, this needs to be prioritized, this new coming 4 years, should I be so lucky to stay in the council. I do want to make sure that should the public safety not pass this November, I want to work with a council for us to be able to readjust our budget. I think we should be going through it right now with our budget instead, but right now, the council is not very supportive of that. Right now, it seems like we're all leaning towards putting all our effort into the levy. And I want to make sure if this levy passes that I do have a say in making sure that the funds are used the way we actually are intending for them to be used and not that it gets used for some other project.
So this is something that my audience is going to freak out at me. And remember, if you want to freak out at me, you can give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I think you would find that most Republicans, most conservatives would say, we're okay paying taxes if they actually go to things we believe in. For example, police, firefighters, public safety, emergency response, roads, bridges, tunnels. It's when it gets abused, they're not in favor of that. So it's very responsible that you're looking to find a way to do this in the budget. But also, if you're going to do taxes, at least we know exactly where it's going to. It's not going to be wasted.
Exactly. And that is something that I want to prioritize this coming year, is making sure that these funds do get used the way we want them to get used. Because it's not something that I want to even pay for taxes if I end up saying, you know what, I want to pay extra taxes on police force, but then have the government take that money and say, you know what, I'm going to use it for something else that's not actually public safety. It's a huge broad spectrum that they can call public safety, but for me, the prioritization should be our police force.
Stephanie Mora, who is running to be reelected in Burien on their city council. Thank you so much for all your hard work on behalf of everybody in Burien. It gives us hope over here in Seattle. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines, your good news giveaway, your chance to win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to the Puyallup Fair. The Washington State Spring Fair. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, got some good news headlines for you, my friends. And this one involves food, and it's local. According to Fox 13, there is now a cake ATM in Seattle. So it's only a matter of time until somebody wraps a chain around that sucker and drives away with a stolen truck. Oh, wait. No, don't do that to the cake ATM. But you know it's going to happen. So according to the outlet, this company, Butter Half Cakes, a Ballard-based micro bakery, I see what you did there, offers cake slices through a self-serving vending machine called the Cake Co-op, allowing smartphone purchases and quickly becoming a local hit. Owner Nicole Conley transitioned from a tech career to baking, driven by her creative passion, and upgraded her porch-based bakery to meet growing demand. The Cake Co-op operates Fridays through Sundays at 11 a.m., with cakes selling out rapidly, encouraging early visits. The innovative setup, effectively known as the Cake Co-op or Cake ATM, is a self-serve, on-demand cake fridge, allowing customers to browse and purchase slices of cake directly from their smartphones. Since its debut just 2 weeks ago, the machine has quickly become a local sensation, with customers lining up and down 30th Avenue Northwest before the bakery even opens its doors at 11 a.m. Its doors, or just opens for business? So, according to Conley, I've been surprised by how much I can do if I truly put my mind to it. Yes, very Back to the Future of you. Reflecting on her journey from stay-at-home mom to self-taught baker and entrepreneur, Conley's transition into the cake business wasn't always planned. A former tech worker from Silicon Valley, she had a background in customer service, project management, and apparel design. When she moved to Ballard and became a full-time mom to her daughter, she found herself yearning for an outlet. She said, "I just have this innate desire to be creative. I have this personality where I get an idea, and I absolutely have to execute on it like right now." That drive led her to launch a small bakery, which started by offering custom cakes from her front porch. But as demand grew, she quickly realized she needed to take things to the next level. 2 months ago, she began upgrading the Cake Co-op, a colorful bubblegum pink pickup kiosk, to a vending machine specifically for cake slices. She said, "If you had told me 2 months ago that, Nicole, you're going to learn electrical engineering or software programming, I would have said, no way. I don't know how to do that stuff. The micro bakery I essentially put together using things I already had around the house, maybe a jug of paint or 1 or 2 supplies from Amazon. For those hoping to snag a slice, the Cake Co-op is open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 11 a.m. However, with the cakes selling out within just a couple of hours, it is best to arrive early." You know what I saw was making a comeback in New York before COVID was automats. Do you know what an automat is? I had to look up what these suckers were. In the 1950s, they had these giant cafeterias that basically had these massive vending machines or windows that you paid for something, opened it up, and took it. Those were making a huge comeback in New York right before COVID. I haven't really checked on them since, nor have I heard about them since. I wonder if that was something that was a COVID casualty or if it's something that's grown in popularity like this. Question is how many people are still commuting to work anymore. I'm sure in Manhattan a lot are, but around here you tried something like that, that business may be done. But something like this is fascinating. Limited supply, local area. Come check it out for the novelty alone. Sounds like a lot of fun. This just sounds entertaining. The Cake Co-op, the Cake ATM, the cake vending machine. I love everything about this. I love cake. I really do. I'm a Duncan Hines guy myself. I'm happy with the Duncan Hines vanilla cake with chocolate frosting. I mean, that will hit the spot any day. Really, really does. I'm happy with that. I'm not a cheesecake guy. For me, it tastes like rotten cake. It tastes like moldy cake. That's a taste kind of thing. Chocolate mousse cake. Oh, yes.
Yeah, see, I think that's just a subjective taste thing because I celebrate the catalog. I don't even look at cheesecake as quote unquote cake. Like cake is cake.
Yes.
I like cheesecake, but it is a very different thing. I'm with you, Ari. I like my cake like light and fluffy with some good frosting on there, that good sugary frosting, that kind of thing, real moist, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're on the same wavelength here.
I'm right there with you. Now, chocolate cake, I like it that way too, but if you give me like the chocolate mousse cake with some vanilla ice cream or a hot chocolate mousse cake. Oh, yeah. Or better
Now
yet,
we're talking.
the giant chocolate chip cookie with some vanilla ice cream on top of that sucker. I don't even know if that's cake.
We're
I don't
drifting
care.
away from cake, but I'm
That's
still
fine.
there with you.
If these things are in that machine, we got things to talk about. I'm very curious.
Hey, Ari, want to let folks know real quick, you're about to give away our fantabulous prizes, but I'm looting around in my pants pockets here, and I found one bonus pair of tickets to the John Carlson going away party this Friday in Kirkland at 6 p.m. So if you're our good news giveaway winner, and Ari's going to tell you the prizes in just a moment, I'll also ask you if you want to go to the party, because I got an extra pair.
Excellent.
I'll hook you up.
Speaking of those fantabulous
for Big Mike
prizes.
Militia
There you go.
only.
We'll give those away. Speaking of fantabulous prizes, today we're giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away 7 steps to a successful retirement and a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information. And we're giving away 6 tickets to the Washington State Spring Fair. Get your tickets now at thefair.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes and get your chance to get the bonus tickets to John Carlson's retirement party, be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.